Cervell. This is a Rosie the Riveter, the real thing. She riveted the wings at Cervell for these P47 Thunderbolts. And she was involved in arranging the trays that put those massive 50 cal Browning machine guns. Go ahead.
Well, first,
Speak up, Miss Johnson. Speak up. We can't hear you back here, please.
okay. First, we did the ammo box, as we call it. And then after a while, I don't know why my partner left and I was by myself, so they put me to fitting the gun covers. And you would have to put them in a vise and file them to a certain 30-second. And then our Cervell inspectors would inspect them. And then, if they were too much, they were rejected. And then the Army inspectors inspected them, and then they were accepted. And we had one room that they painted the emblem on them. And then they had the wings turned straight in the air, and they were, all the shavings and everything was vacuumed out. And they would use a mirror to see, and they were perfectly clean when they left us. And then they would take them out to Republic, and they would install them.
You have a government inspector there every day?
Every day. You had several, because each group of anything that was that made or touched that airplane was inspected by Cervell's inspectors and also by the Army. We'll work from 7 at night till 7 in the morning, and I don't know what the shift was whenever for the day shift, but I do remember President Roosevelt came through there on a plane, and nobody was allowed to get in miles of the railroad tracks as he passed through.
When you worked on this, how were your hands when you helped make this these wings? Can you tell us about what you felt like at the end of the day, and can you tell us a little bit about the process of helping with the wings?
Well, I could drive them or I could buck them, either one. That meant hold a piece of iron up, you know, and do. And if your buddy was driving the rivet and he didn't get enough, well, you tapped once, and then if you wanted him to hit it again, you tapped 2 times. You know, you had your signs.
And when they pressed too hard with the rivet gun, did they make a dent in the wing, or how did you learn that touch? That's an art.
Well, they had different heads on the rivet gun, and they also, for the insides of the rivets that went into the spar was the main part of the wing, and they took different lengths of rivets, and usually what was put in the spar was called an icebox rivet. They had little ice boxes about the size of a nightstand that had compartments with the sizes, and if you didn't get them frozen, you couldn't drive them because they were too hard to drive. They wouldn't drive through. And if when the rivets were inspected, if they didn't like any of the head or anything about that head, you had to drill it out, and you couldn't elongate that hole. You had to get it right into the center and go through, or it was rejected. Everybody had much pride in their work.
Does that mean you had to reject the whole wing if it got messed up?
Well, I think they could have salvaged some parts of it, but I'm not too sure about that, because it would probably take more time to get that little part than to make a whole new one.
Right.
That's what I think. And back then, you didn't have good drill bits. If whoever worked in the tool crib, he resharpened those drill bits, and you hoped that he did a good job at it. You know, of course, if you was going in center, you wanted it like center. You know.
Well, we raised hell with him if it wouldn't work.
I don't know. We was always kind of afraid of him.
The air gun was an air rivet gun. Did you ever trip on some of the air pipes? And how heavy was the gun itself?
It wasn't too bad. They were different sizes, you know. And of course, the ones that drove those icebox ones was big. And then see, the rivet set too. Some of those were countersunk, and some of them were dimpled, and some of them were the head inside that spar. Well, the heads were in there, and you had a set that fit that head, and you had to have enough power and push to hold it on there to let it not slide off and ruin that rivet head.
Just to make a comment, up until even just a couple of years ago, this gal had a set of guns on her that would have taken most of you guys.
Guns meaning biceps.
So I can
biceps.
imagine what she was like when she was young doing that. So strength was an issue for her.
I've carried some of those around, and they're very heavy. I have one. We have one in the museum, and it's very heavy. You know, you're saying it's not heavy, but for a woman to carry those, it's like carrying a drill around all day. They have some weight to them.
Well, you know, I come from the hills, so you're pretty tough.
There you go.
The rivets on the water planes were flat, but your rivets were sort of rounded after you were finished. Is that right? A little bit of roundness to them, or were they perfectly
They were flush,
flushed with the plane wing
yeah,
for all the ones you saw?
for most of them were. I can't remember about the boxes, but I know anything that hit that spar, it had a head on it. But different parts of them, some were countersunk and some were dimpled. Some parts of the thing.
How many rivets do you think are in one wing?
I wouldn't have any idea.
More than 100?
Yeah.
More than 1,000? More than 10,000?
Well, I think they'd be put, some parts would be put about an inch, so you can just guess that. And then after this is one thing we're making things, everything that was in Evansville. I went back to work to Servell and was working on refrigeration, and then they either got a defense contract to make more wings. I don't know if there were more made out here with Republic or what, but I know I worked for years, and me and my buddy were the first ones over there, and they brought these engineers in, and they'd read the blueprint and set something up and call us to rivet, and then we had to go and sit in the restroom because there wasn't any place to be, and they'd bang on the door and we'd come back out and rivet. But after we got the pattern made, then I worked there for years.
When you finished your wings at Servell, you had to bring them to the Republic, Indiana Division Republic Aviation Plant. Did you see them go over to there on trucks, or how did you transport them?
Well, you got that picture where I give Sandra that inkling, where it's standing straight up, on this dolly light, and I think they would maybe shove so many dollies in there, maybe 2 or 3, and take them out to Republic at World Food Building.
How many wings did you do with that?
I'd like to compliment the young lady because of her work. When I came back from overseas, I was stationed in Las Vegas for about a year, and they had the first demonstration of the Shooting Star, the first jet that we accepted. And the guy put on a nice demonstration, but when he came down, you could see the rivets and the wings were all buckled. They're all popped. So she did a good job. I never saw any on a 47 that were popped.
Had good inspectors, I think.
How many wings a day did you guys put out?
I don't
Don't know.
that's been 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I kind of slept since then.
Constant go by, you know?
Another one out. So, how many on a wing, a team, how many did you have?
Depending on what they were doing, like some could be doing certain things to it, and like, then there could be two sets of riveters doing the animal boxes, you know.
Oh,
Cause it's little boxes and like so. And that was another thing on you asked about the gun. On those ammo boxes, it'd be just a little short gun. You'd get down in there and it wouldn't hardly be room for your fingers, you know, to hold that little gun. Be like a T.
Well, actually, several. But yeah, you can set up there.